Since summer I switched over to the KIP dashboard, and today I will share my experience, give some insights, explain the basic widgets and tell you why I use it. This summer I did several updates on my OpenPlotter setup, and one was to switch over to the KIP dashboard. Today I want to share my experience and give you some basic help to set up the KIP dashboard. As you can see here, the KIP dashboard offers plenty of options, and we will take a look into the basic ones so that you have an easy start. Okay, before we start, let's take a look on my development environment on a realized dashboard here. And you can see how a KIP dashboard can look like. What you can see are different widgets with numbers or text is possible, position, some specific widgets like the wind steer here. You can set switches, toggle switches and others. And you can also set multiple dashboards, not only one. So when you take a look here, I have 3 different dashboards configured, and you can swipe through the different dashboards. And because I like the style and the ease of use, I switched over to KIP. And because I had the need for switches, which was not possible with my prior dashboard. Okay, now let's take a look how you can configure a dashboard and how it actually works. Keep in mind, all this data must come from Signal K. So Signal K is the data hub for everything we do here. All right, I'm now on Signal K. When you go to web apps, you will find the KIP dashboard here. When we start the KIP dashboard, you will get this default page here, and maybe the first thing what you should know and should do, swipe from the right to the left here with the button pressed or with the touch screen, go to options, and now you have to decide in the options and display if you want to use the chart plotter mode. That uses freeboard SK on half of your screen, and on the other half the KIP dashboard, but we will now start with freeboard SK disabled. So we just have this screen view here. Otherwise you would have it here, half of it with freeboard SK. When you swipe from the left to the right, you go to the notifications tab, and when you go from top to down or down to top, you swipe between or switch between the different dashboards, but we have just one now, so it has no functionality. But when we go from the right to the middle again, we find this symbol here. This is unlocking the edit mode. Now we are in edit mode. You see already a display or text widget. When you press a button and keep it pressed, so long press, or you use the touch and keep the finger down, you can duplicate or delete this widget. We start to delete it so that it's empty now. Now you can place a widget anywhere, just keep the button pressed again, and you see several widgets you can choose off. We start with something very easy with a static label. We take this one, it's now a widget, you can move it anywhere, you can change the size. You can double click to edit it and enter a text. You can change the color here, just some colors, some dedicated colors available. We take now blue. And that's it for this kind of widget. Now we want to put a value on the dashboard. We go again, or we close the edit mode first, so I didn't save it now. Because I want to show you one option, and this is the data inspector. The data inspector shows you all the Signal K readings available, and let's just take a look. For example, I don't know, do we have something with volt? So the total voltage here, so you see the unit, you see the value, you see the path. Unfortunately, you can't copy the path, but you will find it easily when you just remember it. When we now go to the edit mode again, now I will save it this time, so delete this one. Okay, we keep it pressed, take the numeric widget, double click, we can define a label. You see it offers more options because it's not only a text box, like show min recorded value, show max recorded value. We take blue, we take a path. We can search here like we did it in the data inspector. You pick the voltage you want to display now, and you can define also the unit, but usually it's predefined. If it's not available in Signal K, you can select one. You can enable widget data TTL. Be careful with that. That means time to live. So if there's no update in between 5 seconds here, and this would be enabled, this value would be set to 0 so that you know, oh, there is something going on. So in this case, we don't need it, and we keep it off. And when we say save, we get the value in blue with min max on our dashboard. One remark here for my system, I'm in the development environment currently, so this value is simulated. It's not a real source, so you see that it's always 13.2, so that makes it a bit useless to have min and max here. Now I set confirm, and now I can't select it anymore or move it around. So if you want to edit again, you have to unlock or enter the edit mode again. So that's how you can build your dashboard now. We can, of course, add other widgets as well. For example, a date and time. Also for date and time, you need some source. First of all, you need a time zone. I just take any time zone now. You can select the time format, and you need a path. Usually this is easy if you just take the GPS as your system offering date and time, because GPS gets a very accurate time or has a very accurate time available. You can add things like the position of GPS, like switches, sliders. There's a gauge selection when you want to have it more graphical, showing some values. Some special components like the wind steer and a real-time data chart where you need to collect data up front, and some racing stuff. Let's start with a switch. When we place a switch panel somewhere, let's say we want to place it here, we could just switch. You need to select what kind of switch it is. You can even place more than one switch, by the way. So it's a panel with multiple switches. So I could put another one here, but we will start with one switch. It can be a toggle switch on off. It can be a push switch, a trigger, and you can use just a simple indicator, which is not a switch. It just shows you if something is on or off. We will use this now and call it, I don't know, let's say anchor. And when you define the path, you will notice that only boolsch path will be offered here. I created a switch which is now emulated, so it will go on and off every 4 seconds. We say save. And you see maybe that the anchor was, now you see it is illuminated. So that's the current behavior if a switch is on. Just give it a second. Now you see it's on. If you want to change the color, the display here, so this color is for the switch text here on top. If you want to change the color of this indicator, you really need to pick because it could be more than one, pick the color here of the controls tab. So we take blue, and now you see when it's going on, it is blue and has some shadow, and if it's going off, it's gray again, only the text stays blue. We can add a second one. Let's just do this to show how this looks like. We take the indicator again. Label, what is it? This is the anchor drop, let's say. And we take the drop. Let's put a different color so that you see how this is working. So this is now always off because I have no emulation running on this, but this is how the switch panel would look like. This is really a switch which can be toggled. Let's go in again here, and we change now the type to toggle switch. And when you go to the path, you see that only the drop switch is offered. I will show you in a second why. I save, and you see here now, okay, I need to save the screen. And you see that I can turn on and off this toggle switch here. Why is this so that I can't see the anchor path, but only the drop path? I will show you this on the Data Explorer or Data Inspector. When we go to the drop switch, you see that it says it has PUT support. And when we go to the other path, I think it was called switch, yeah, you see it has no PUT support. So you can only use those, now my alarm goes on, which have PUT support. So I had to disable that anchor drop because my anchor alarm was on. It was the watchdog, by the way, which said, okay, no position available. Anyway, you see you need a PUT handler, and a PUT handler can be created, for example, in Node-RED. It means that there's something which gets the information if the switch is changing, or if you have a switch which is just triggered, which just takes the trigger. So you need a PUT handler. Let's take a look in Node-RED what this means, and it's quite easy. There is for the signal K nodes, you will find a PUT handler node, and you just need to subscribe with this node to the path where you want to set the button or the toggle switch or whatever. And you might need also to initialize it with some data so that the KIP dashboard really recognize that there is a PUT handler available. So in my case, I did this for the anchor drop, so that's why this was possible. And this one, because we have been here, you see this is my simulation here. I just set true and false to a specific path here. So there's no PUT handler, and that's why this switch here, or this bool value or Boolean value, can't be used for a toggle, neither for a trigger button. The PUT handler for toggle and push or trigger is the same. So I could now change this to push, and now it would be just a push button, which you can click here. This depends now how you want to program it. In my case, it's a toggle switch, so I would change this back to toggle, because otherwise I can turn it only on, and I want to turn it on and off. And before my alarm comes back, let's turn it off. So with these little widgets, you can already create an impressive and good looking dashboard. But you might want to dig a bit deeper. For example, you want to add a wind steer. If you want to add a wind steer, there are some other things necessary. First of all, of course, you need the input sources like your wind direction and the wind speed. And there we already talking about how to get wind speed and so on in Signal K with the, for example, MacArthur hat and Mir input. That's how I did it, at least, but there are other ways. This is something which is not covered now with the KIP dashboard video today. But let's assume we have it. Then there are some interesting options. For example, you could calculate the true wind speed. And I did this and noticed that this is a bit tricky, and I want to help you with that. For that, we need to go to Signal K. And what I did on Signal K now is I installed something, and this is a quite nice tool. This is the so-called, where is it? Derived data plugin. When you see this one here, it will calculate a lot of additional information, which is quite useful. Now let's go back to Signal K. I can show you this maybe in the plugin configuration easier. We go to the derived data plugin, and you see it's a long list. And this is real, as by the way, props to the author of this nice plugin, because it is really easily usable and so on. It shows you what kind of informations are available. If there is a cross, a red cross, you know, okay, it's not available. If there's a green tick, or no, there's thumb up, I think, it means, yeah, it's available. And because I'm now in my development environment, I do not have much available. But for example, you can calculate the true course over ground, and it directly says, oh, you need the navigation course over ground magnetic and the variation. The variation, by the way, can already be, and that's maybe the green cross here, can be delivered by this nice tool here. So let's look for that. Maybe I can search here now easier. Magnetic variation. Ah, there is it already. And I can say I want to have this available. And when you save it now, submit, we get a new information on our Signal K server. Let's go to the data browser and let's look for maybe variation. So I had to reboot to get it, and now you see I have magnetic variation twice. Why twice? Because the GPS also offers it, but my GPS always says null, and this doesn't help me at all. And you see the derived data source now, so my plugin, based on the GPS position, offers me the magnetic variation, and I need this one to calculate some other things. So that's why I love this plugin so much. It calculates a lot of additional things you otherwise need to calculate on your own with Node-RED or whatsoever, or you need tables, lookup tables. So it's a really cool plugin. And when you really want to use the wind steer, you see you need several sources, like the true heading, the apparent angle, and so on. Some of them you might have already, but some of them might be necessary, and then this plugin helps you a lot, because this plugin can calculate several of them, so that you get them all together to have this wind steer working. I did this, and this was cool, and yeah, we can go through this, but it needs maybe additional video for that. So the last thing for today is a chart widget. Maybe you see it already. I changed my simulation, and I now have two values here switching on my voltage display, and we want to see this on a chart. This, by the way, has changed, so for me it's the first time I can use now this new chart plotter. When you go to the components and take real-time data chart, before you had to create a little helper, let's say, which is collecting the values. Now this is all integrated in the chart. So let's double click here. We call this voltage, and we can define auto scale, decimal places, and so on. Even maybe the ticks of the scale, we turn them on. And as a data set, we take now our voltage we used before also. We want to have volts, and now something which was originally in a different widget, let's say, where you had to collect the data. Now you can do this here. How often do you want to take data? And this is important if you also want to know the accuracy. You can read the sample rate. It depends a little bit on the duration. Let's say the duration is in hours, seconds, minutes. Let's say in our case we want to know the last half an hour. We say save, and now the chart will start, and you see it will always flip between 12:08 and 13:02, because this is my simulation. you get some additional information like the average in the background and so on. So 13 should be the average because I picked it around 13 volts, 12.8, 13.2, and you see that the average is already here. And now it will develop until 30 minutes, and of course it will then it will be a moving average afterwards. Yeah, that's a nice thing. For example, I use this on my dashboard for the wind angle so that I can see if the angle is changing. Yeah, it's also a nice option, and you can really use this dashboard for plenty of different applications like switching, like the wind steer, like chart plotting, like of course a simple numeric dashboard or even a text dashboard. So it's a nice dashboard. I switched over to the KIP dashboard, not using the other dashboards anymore, because this is nice looking. I like the layout, I like the functionality which is available now, and I can just recommend it, and hope this helps you a bit to find into it. And yeah, if you like this video, leave a comment or press the thumb up. Thank you so much, and see you next time. See you next time.